All right, welcome to this explainer. We're diving right into the hard numbers of painting your San Diego home's exterior in 2026. If you're a homeowner trying to figure out exactly what to budget for this essential maintenance, well, you are absolutely in the right place. We're going to keep this incredibly focused, clear, and specific. No fluff, just the actionable data you need based on the latest cost analysis. Okay, let's dive into this. Let's hit the bottom line immediately. For your average single-story home here in San Diego right now, you're looking at $5,000 to $9,000 this year. But as any homeowner knows, average is a tricky word. That range gives us a great starting point, but it's the variables that determine whether you're paying $5,000, $9,000, or something completely different. Moving right along to Section 1, the baseline painting costs. Let's break down these numbers by house size. So the starting point for your quote is always going to be the physical size of the job. Makes sense, right? If you've got a smaller single-story home under 1,500 square feet, that range drops down to maybe $3,500 to $6,500. But check out what happens when we jump to a two-story home between 2,500 and 3,500 square feet. The price leaps to anywhere from $8,000 to $15,000. This brilliantly illustrates how quickly a second story or a larger custom footprint drives up the price. Moving from $3,500 to well over $15,000 is a massive leap, and a lot of that just comes down to scaffolding, safety premiums, and having way more wall to cover. Now, if you're the type who likes to crunch the raw numbers yourself, exterior painting in San Diego County usually lands around $1.75 to $4.50 per square foot. But hey, here is a totally critical distinction. This price is based on the paintable wall surface, not your home's interior floor plan. Two houses with the exact same square footage on Zillow can have radically different paintable surface areas if one is just a flat stucco box and the other is a complex two-story with dormers and heavy trim. All right, Section 2, 4 major price drivers. Let's see what actually moves the needle on your quote. So why on earth does one house cost so much more than another? Well, it really comes down to 4 massive variables that contractors look for the second they walk onto your property. First up, surface area and stories. More wall means more paint and labor, but adding a second story brings in that safety premium we talked about and requires slower ladder work. Second is the cladding type, what actually covers your house, like stucco versus wood siding. Third is prep condition, just how damaged the surface is, including peeling paint, chalkiness, or wood rot. And finally, the paint grade and the number of coats. Let's zoom in on that last one. You've got to factor in the actual materials here. Mid-grade exterior paint will run you $40 to $80 a gallon, but if you need coastal premium acrylics, the stuff built to withstand sun and salt, you're looking at $70 to $110 a gallon. No joke, those coastal acrylics cost serious money. Furthermore, any honest, high-quality quote is going to assume 2 full coats over a primer. One thin coat just isn't going to cut it, so 2 coats are absolutely essential for longevity. Up next, Section 3, Local Factors, Stucco and the Coast. We're talking San Diego's unique painting challenges. Let's talk about our local architecture and your wallet. We kind of have to contrast the 2 most common surfaces here. Stucco covers most of our homes, and honestly, it's generally cheaper to paint. Why? Because a crew can just spray it super quickly, which drives labor costs right down. But stucco is incredibly thirsty. It literally drinks paint, absorbing 20 to 30% more than smooth siding. Now, contrast that with wood and fiber cement siding. Wood needs careful cutting in by hand, board by board. Plus, old wood almost always needs spot priming and rot repair first. So, while stucco drinks more paint, wood demands way more labor, making siding the more expensive option overall. And this brilliantly illustrates the geographical divide we have in the county. If you're over on the coast, think Coronado or La Jolla, your house is taking a constant, brutal beating from salt air, marine fog, and UV rays. Because of that beating, you absolutely need premium-resistant coats, and you're going to find yourself repainting every 5 to 7 years. On the flip side, inland homes out in Poway or Escondido, they deal with intense, dry heat, not salt. The trick there is crews have to avoid painting in direct afternoon sun so the hot stucco doesn't flash the paint and weaken the bond. But the huge payoff? That inland dry heat gives you a much longer 8 to 10-year window between repaints. Moving into Section 4, why prep work matters most. This is the hidden cost you absolutely cannot skip. Okay, we've arrived at basically the most vital part of this whole explainer. Seriously, if you take away just one thing today, make it this. When you look at the labor for an exterior repaint, a staggering 40 to 60% of the work, so averaging right about half the job, is just the surface preparation. Half. That's before a single brush even touches the wall. This is the part homeowners constantly underestimate. So what does that 50% actually look like? Well, it is intense, grueling physical labor. We're talking thoroughly washing off salt, algae, and chalky old paint. It's scraping and sanding all those peeling areas, filling cracks with the exact right caulk, spot priming bare wood or patch stucco, and meticulously masking off your windows, lights, and landscaping. Proper prep is not some optional add-on. Doing all of this is quite literally the difference between a paint job that lasts 10 years and an absolute disaster. Which brings us to a really harsh truth about contracting. If someone hands you a lowball quote that's magically thousands of bucks cheaper than the rest, prep is almost always what got slashed. And skipping that prep work is guaranteeing your house is going to look terrible and start peeling in just 2 summers. You simply cannot cut corners here. Finally, Section 5, Smart Quotes and Next Steps. Let's talk about protecting your investment. Let's get into some actionable next steps. First up, the classic homeowner dilemma: DIY versus hiring a pro. You know, you might be tempted to DIY a small sound stucco ranch to save some cash. And honestly, if you're confident, that's a realistic project where materials and a sprayer rental will only set you back maybe $600 to $1,200. But that math changes really fast and gets super dangerous if you've got a second story. Hiring a pro is practically mandatory for 2-story ladder or scaffold work. A fall is just not worth the savings. You also need a pro if you've got heavy prep, serious wood rot, or if you just want the safest and fastest option to get the job done right. Now, if you do hire a pro, please do not accept a quote that is just one line and one number. Before you sign anything, demand an itemized quote that explicitly spells out these specific items. It needs to list the exact square footage and number of coats. It must name the specific paint, brand, line, and grade. It has to detail exactly what prep is included and clearly state whether trim, eaves, and doors are in or out. It should even separate out quotes for actual repair work like wood rot and factor in the number of accent colors, since extra colors add heavy labor. Demand this level of detail so you get absolutely zero surprise charges. Which brings us to our final thought. Most San Diego homes need a repaint every 7 to 10 years. Even sooner if you're on the coast. Waiting until the paint completely fails and bare wood or stucco is exposed, that means water gets in, and suddenly your standard paint job instantly turns into an expensive repair job, with crack repair, rot replacement, and sometimes even interior drywall damage. Caught early, a repaint is just straightforward protection of your biggest asset. So I'll leave you with this. Looking at your home's exterior today, is it time to price out a repaint before a simple maintenance task turns into a major reconstruction? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.